What's this? Thomas E. Brady, Niner booster? My dad?
My family had season tickets to the San Francisco 49ers, and that alone made me fall in love with football. I grew up in San Mateo, California, a few miles away from Candlestick Park. We sat 5 rows from the top of the stadium. We had 4 season tickets, and we made our entire Sunday out of going to the 49ers games. I grew up with the 49ers and their dynasty. The dynasty that changed the NFL forever.
Montana back to throw. Throws down the middle, right. Touchdown, 49ers!
I don't think I could have been what I was if I grew up rooting for the Jets. I wanted to play football because the Niners were incredible. It became my first true love.
The role of an owner should be one of being most active.
The team owner was all about winning, and he always spent so much to do it. That's how he was, and he changed the way pro sports do business.
They looked at me like not the owner, but a friend. Want to play golf with me this week?
There was so much to the city, this Silicon Valley hub of the tech world. And then you started hearing about this coaching genius.
2 backers blitzing.
Bill Walsh saw things in advance that others didn't see.
We are just better put together than our opposition. It's just that simple.
And when you pair a great coach with a great player, well, that's magic.
I played 4 Super Bowls and never lost.
When you grow up going, okay, wow, I want to be like that. That's my sporting idol. It was Joe, then it was on to Steve. And I'm like, oh my God, we've got the next Joe Montana.
It's a dream to come to San Francisco.
Young cuts back.
Whatever talent you have,
Touchdown.
it'll come to its fullest measure here.
There was all this excitement around the games and the players.
16th pick in the first round.
They were drafting players. There was Jerry Rice, the original GOAT.
I would like to be the all-time receiver.
There were so many others, from John Taylor to Roger Craig to Randy Cross and Ronnie Lott.
Believe it!
It just goes on and on.
We think we have the finest quarterback in the league,
And there was drama.
but our problem is we have 2, and there's a quarterback controversy developing.
All the shit shows up.
You're never ready to retire. I'm definitely not ready now.
You got to solve all these problems.
No one suffers but us when we lose.
And there was a high level of expectation for greatness.
49ers are champions of professional football.
And not only did they win,
The 49ers with 3 Super Bowl victories.
it was the style in which they won.
The team of the decade.
And in the end, they changed the city and built a dynasty.
Certainly San Francisco, with its Nob Hill, cable cars, Fisherman's Wharf, and the Golden Gate, is an awe-inspiring sight. Kezar Stadium comes into sight. This is where the 49ers have fought many of their battles.
The 49ers were more often than not just a civic mudslide. They got to 1 championship in the 33 years that they existed, and that was in the old All-American Football Conference, which had been dead since 1950.
The 49ers were known for either being atrocious
Throw is into the end zone, and it's a touchdown!
or breaking your heart.
They were stuck in this rut until 1977, and that was the beginning of the DeBartolo era.
We're going to make this team a winner. You can say I'm wrong in a year, but we're not going to handle this any different than we handle anything that we've ever done in our lives.
We were born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. My dad built a strip center in Youngstown, and then from there, the company just took off.
DeBartolo is widely credited with the idea of mall shopping. He's considered the country's top shopping center developer.
When my father started out 30 years ago, he started out with nothing. But we've been a winner in everything we've did because we sweat blood.
Although he did what he was supposed to be doing, following in the footsteps of the DeBartolo Corporation, I honestly believe he saw an opportunity to succeed on his own in his environment.
The vibe was, I'm gonna come in here and run this place like it's never been run before. Everybody in the room is sort of asking each other, well, based on what? What have you run before? What's your link to football? What do you know? As it turns out, he knew remarkably little.
I was 30, and I just took it as a real challenge. I was a neophyte. I didn't know anything about NFL football. I didn't know whether the football was blown up or stuffed.
This city deserves a winning ball club, and I will do everything in my power to see that that takes place.
And he came out, he hired Joe Thomas, and made it infinitely worse.
We have a great deal of faith in Joe Thomas. We have a great rapport with this man.
That was a mistake.
Yes, Marion, put the call through, please. O.J. Simpson, how are you?
Joe Thomas convinced me to trade for O.J. Simpson. The biggest mistake I ever made. He was done.
To be a 49er, man. Hey, I don't know what to say to you guys, man. I left my heart in San Francisco, high up on a hill. It calls to me.
He wasn't going to help the team. It just shouldn't have happened. Joe Thomas, as a general manager of the 49ers, put them in a hole for a long time.
San Francisco in the 60s was, to their view, on the cutting edge of society. You know, the summer of love came. It was like that until the mid-70s, when you saw sort of the downside of it. The infrastructure of the town was starting to age.
The cable system was completely shut down Tuesday after a study reported it was unsafe. A total overhaul of the system will cost $41 million.
After the summer of love, there was a lot of speed freaks, a lot of runaways. There was a lot of bad things happening.
5 members of the SLA robbed the Hibernia Bank in San Francisco. The FBI said the girl in the wig with the automatic rifle was Patricia Hearst.
Right next to the Fillmore, Jim Jones had the People's Temple and also had his congregation in Guyana.
Good evening. U.S. troops are in Guyana now, beginning that gruesome task of removing the bodies of 409 Americans, suicide and murder victims of a fanatic religious cult.
We might have been 3,000 miles away here in San Francisco, but there was a lot of tentacles into the community from the people that were there.
And then you had the assassination of the mayor.
Mayor Moscone and Harvey Milk, first publicly gay candidate to be elected to public office, being assassinated in City Hall.
The day that happened, we had a Monday night game with the Steelers.
This city really is a city that you sense is in mourning. And I think, quite frankly, it's affected the crowd tonight.
Pittsburgh had their way with our team.
And here they all come and get rid of it in a hurry. And there, picked off Jack Hand. Bradshaw, Stallworth, right there.
The fans, they were not happy. And the whole franchise was going sideways.
They had signs up. Get rid of Joe Thomas, get rid of Joe Thomas.
Eddie wanted nothing to do with this guy or anything that touched Joe Thomas.
When the Joe Thomas regime exploded in a shower of crap, people were mentioning to Eddie, the guy down the road. Get the guy down the road. Bill Walsh had given Stanford something else to brag about for the first time in a long time. They were fun to watch. They scored points, went to bowl games.
Stanford was the perfect environment for my father's style because they were eager to learn. The team was like a sponge. No matter what he threw at it, they soaked it up. He would make plays so complicated, and they'd go out there and run.
I was working at KSFO. I was the play-by-play announcer, and that's where I met Bill Walsh. So I called Eddie. I said, Eddie, we're going to dinner. Oh, I want Don Shula. I want Chuck Noll. I said, no, you'll get a tampering charge if you go after them now. But if you hire Bill Walsh, I promise you 3 Super Bowls.
All right, still going?
Just keep rolling and keep rolling and we'll get it.
For over 60 years, that's right, damn it. For over 60 years, men have been devising means to advance the football. But perhaps the most spectacular and exciting way is through the use of the forward pass.
The game always evolves over time. Passing used to be, we're just going to take shots, and if we can hit big pass plays, great. There was a high risk to all those plays because you had to run far down the field to catch the ball.
There it goes, but it's intercepted for Packers center.
You hear this from a lot of coaches. If you throw the ball, only three things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. Ball can be incomplete, can be intercepted, or you complete it. So we're going to run the ball as much as we can to control the line of scrimmage and control the game. If you're a quarterback and you hand the ball to a running back, he's got to run through a wall of bodies. If you can throw the ball a very short route, you clear the D line and you're still controlling that game.
The timing has to be right on these patterns.
1, 2, 3, ball's out.
Quick 3 steps and throwing the ball.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ball's out.
5 quick, step toward it and throw it.
Everything was rhythmic. The quarterback could always be like a great jump shooter. Catching the ball, shoot, catching the ball, shoot, and then you find your rhythm. And when you can get in the flow in sports and people are all synced up at the same time, that's what the West Coast offense is. And that's how Coach Walsh saw the game.
You're always giving credit for the West Coast offense, but that's not your name. You didn't come up with that.
Well, our offense, as it evolved over many, many years, really started in Cincinnati, Ohio, with the Bengals.
My father, being a struggling coach in his early years, had to make the best of whatever team he was associated with. So we went to Cincinnati in 1968 for the expansion Bengals. This is an NFL team that really didn't have NFL players. It had everybody's cast-offs.
Squad that has evolved around the genius of one man, founder and head coach Paul Brown, a mastermind whose innovations have become NFL gospel.
Paul Brown was a running coach, and he wanted to run the ball. And he wasn't so much a tactician as he was a fundamentalist. Run it up the middle. Where my father was more the intellectual X's and O's guys, this is how we're going to beat them. So he figured out that he couldn't run the ball because the offensive line wasn't strong enough. So they turned into a team that would basically dink the ball around just to keep the linebackers back.
We managed to move the ball with less talent than our opposition. High percentage timed passing. We're a precision machine.
Wide open, Rudy Clark.
And if you can sustain your offense with a series of short completed passes, you had then the option of going for the big play.
My father was up in the box because Paul did not want him on the sidelines because then people would have realized he's really the head coach because he's calling the plays and Paul's just standing there with his beautiful tweed cap on.
Bill, we're not going to have much time probably when we get this, so I don't want to try something that we're gambling a lot on. I like to, okay.
The whole country has seen this expansion team in the AFC Cincinnati Bengals go to the playoff. My father couldn't figure out why no other teams are calling him for head coaching jobs. Paul put the kibosh on other teams interviewing my father, said my father was unreliable, he's not the guy you think he is. He was blocking him from being a head coach.
Paul Brown badmouthed him, kept him from getting jobs because he was just plain jealous of him.
Experience is a vital factor.
And once he heard that, he confronted Paul on it, and Paul said, okay, guess what? I'm retiring and I'm naming Bill Tiger Johnson as the Cincinnati Bengals head coach.
Paul Brown resigns, but he names a man within the organization as the head coach. Yet thereafter, 2 assistants resign. Is there more to this?
In my case, there isn't any relationship between my leaving and Bill Johnson becoming the head coach. In fact, there's my belief that Bill will take this team all the way.
So that's a consummate professional right there. That he's not telling the ultimate truth there, but a head coach is never going to sit there and say anything derogatory about another future head coach. But I can see it on his face.
That was a really defining moment in his life, that he knew his own self-worth. And there's nothing wrong with being the, offensive coordinator, but he wanted more. He thought of himself as an underdog.
Maybe it's the best thing that happened to Bill Walsh. That he finally ended up in Stanford and everybody says, oh, it's him. Those are his ideas.
Eddie's father and some other people were getting firsthand reports. Bill Walsh is a really, really bright guy, but he's not head coach material and maybe is not emotionally tough enough to handle the head coaching job. Paul Brown was really one of the main sources.
As far as I'm concerned, it was water off a duck's back. I didn't pay any attention to that. You listen to too many people, and that's one too many. The meeting took no longer than 15 minutes. He was caring. He wasn't a buffoon. He didn't push people around, and I just liked him.
Bill Walsh is the new head football coach of the San Francisco 49ers. He's also the director of football operations.
Eddie's coming into his own. He's going to be my head coach. It's going to be the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm running it.
Bill Walsh made it clear that you're just going to have to listen to me and you're going to have to trust me, because it's going to take 2 years to shovel out these stables before I can get the team I want.
Bill Walsh left the quiet and the comfort of Stanford University to become head football coach of the San Francisco 49ers because he says it's a challenge and an opportunity. It also has been the professional graveyard of 4 coaches in 3 years. Happy challenging, Mr. Walsh.
Dwight Clark, he had the same orthodontist as me. He's in the orthodontist chair. Me and my sister crash the orthodontist appointment. He's laying on the table, getting his teeth worked on. I'm sitting over the top, taking photos of his teeth, and he brought his rings in. I mean, I look back and I'm like, how torturous was I to poor Dwight Clark? When you're a kid, you want the kinds of heroes that come packed with bubble gum. You want hope. And in the NFL, you find it at the draft.
Clear the floor. We'd like to get this underway.
The 44th Annual National Football League Selection Meeting is now in session.
Thanks to the OJ trade, we didn't have a first-round pick.
Leading off in the first round, the Buffalo Bills.
I asked Bill, what do you look for in a quarterback?
Next up, New York Giants.
He said, I look for 2 things primarily. 1, I look at their feet. And 2, I look at their head. I said, what does that tell you? He said, the feet shows me how quickly he can get back into the pocket and set up.
Joe Montana.
The head, primary, secondary, third-dairy, receiver, and throw.
Other coaches were maybe looking for the Dan Fouts type player or for the Terry Bradshaw type player.
Kansas City selects Steve Fuller, quarterback, Clemson.
Well, I think a mistake can be made in looking at the howitzer-type arm of the quarterback.
Coach Walsh was looking for something different. So you find that different player that other people aren't looking for in the later round.
Bill Walsh came up to me and he said, what do you think about taking this kid from Notre Dame? And I said, Coach, I can't tell you what to do, and I also don't want to be blamed.
He's looking for a specific type of player.
Now, he doesn't have the arm of a Pastorini, but he's got the touch, and he's got the ball that can be caught by anyone.
And he found the perfect player in Joe Montana.
I grew up in a little town south of Pittsburgh called Monongahela, right along the river. It was a blue-collar town. I mean, we had steel mills along the river. My mom and dad both knew that they couldn't afford to send me to college. So my dad saw sports as a way out of the life that they were living, not that it was bad.
He was a competitor. He doesn't like to lose at anything. I mean, you play tiddlywinks with him, he doesn't want to lose.
We played him in college. Played Notre Dame, they came to Clemson. And we're leading 17-7 with 10 minutes to go. And that comes back and beats us 21-17.
Montana's Notre Dame quarterback sneak, and touchdown Notre Dame.
I was a little on the light side. You know, you get all these teams as you're coming out going, oh, we're going to take you in the first round. No, we're going to take you in the second round. So you sit there and you go by the first round, go by the second round.
Bill drafted him in the third round.
You can see every year in the draft, right, they really haven't figured it out. They don't know who's going to make it and who isn't. And one of the things they put a lot behind is how big you are, how strong you are, how strong your arm is. It's hard to measure what's in people's heart and what's in people's desire and competitiveness, and you can't really do that by, was he the fastest guy? Tom Brady wasn't very fast, was he?
Thanks, Joe. I think. Walsh also drafted a Carolina kid with $1 million smile.
Dwight Clark makes a sensational catch at the Maryland 45.
Many of our scouts said, you can get him in the free agent market a month from now. And I said, no, that man is going to be here, you watch. And so we drafted him.
I ran into Dwight Clark, and he originally thought I was a kicker. As I said, I wasn't the biggest.
I said, what's your name? He said, Joe Montana. You know, I almost fell off the stool. You know, he's kind of the first guy I met there, and we became, you know, great friends.
It just was a great long-term relationship that just kept building over the years, and he was one of those guys that on the field, off the field, didn't matter. You can always depend on him.
You know, I'm married now, and, you know, Joe's living with my wife and I, so it's like a Three's Company type deal.
So they've become very good friends and sort of an odd couple with Dwight's wife included.
It's hard to play dominoes and shoot pool with your wife. It's a good situation for me. I can spend time with my wife, yet there's somebody there it's almost like a playmate when you're a little kid.
There are those guys, and it happened in college, a lot of you remember, the guys that didn't perform well, didn't have to do much, were on the team, got on the plane, on the bus, pregame meal, everything, no pressure, because there were some guys in that front line that were busting their ass to win football games. They kept their scholarship, they somehow eased through, they met the girls because you guys were busy knocking your asses off, you looked over and they had nice looking ladies. You remember those guys. None of you could have been in that group looking at you tonight. But the point is, there isn't anywhere to hide in the National Football League. There's no way.
Well, he's the kind of head coach that coaches. Being in the right place at the right time is the whole thing with him.
You walk on the practice field, they don't want you to complete 100% of your passes. I want the ball 12 inches in front of the numbers. Not 24 out there where you're stretching, not behind him where you slow him down.
Bill's always keeping us working on footsteps, working on throwing off balance, working on the right amount of steps, perfect timing on plays, and he just never lets you forget the fundamentals.
Okay, let's try it again. That system itself is very, very important. That's good. Repetition, developing skills, and then under pressure being able to perform. One more play, here we go.
Here's practice day 1, here's practice day 50, here's practice week 12, here's practice postseason.
There can't be one wasted minute or one moment of lack of concentration so you miss something.
And to be thinking about scheduling postseason practices in 1979 was not delusional, but it wasn't far off.
The problem was that the team was so bad at that time that I was surprised. I didn't realize the team could get down that far.
49ers have got to be the most exciting 1-12 team in the history of the game.
Our defensive backs couldn't be found on the tapes or the films after we were viewing the game. They weren't there, just a guy catching a pass.
You didn't even bother learning guys' names. They'd bring them in the night before. That morning, they'd be in practice, and they wouldn't make it to lunch.
Most young teams try to build a defense first, but in San Francisco, Walsh is hoping an explosive offense can fuel an exciting return from a disastrous past.
He got to a point where he trusted that I would make the right decisions.
Did the preparation change for you at all this week going in as this starter?
Not really. I think in the NFL, you kind of have to prepare yourself to be starting.
The quarterback of the future.
I hope so. What do you want?
A sprint option.
Montana rolling out. Reynolds, Jimmy Chase, Charlie Young, wide open.
The biggest struggle in 1980, we couldn't stop anybody.
Woodley lobs it, there's more, touchdown! And the 49ers are going to lose their 8th in a row.
I mean, you lose 8 games in a row in the NFL, man. It's bleak.
That's what Bill had to deal with. I mean, he just looked tired, and he looked worn down.
Could say that Walsh probably wishes he was back at Stanford with the year they're having.
I remember saying, hey, you doing okay? And he kind of shook his head and he looked down and he goes, Randy, I don't know how long I can do this. I said, excuse me?
8 straight losses, I had conceded it. When I got off the plane, I was thinking, I'll finish the year out, I'll go to Ed Jr., and I'll talk to him about maybe being some form of management for him, because I brought it this far, I can't get it all the way.
Manning looks over the middle. Harris fell down. Now gets back up, goes into the corner of the end zone. Henry Childs, touchdown! The winless New Orleans Saints are sticking it to San Francisco 35-7.
That was very embarrassing, to put it lightly. They were hooting and hollering and laughing. And that's the first thing he pointed out when he came up and started talking to us was, you hear those guys? If that doesn't insult you, if that doesn't get you fired up, you know, I don't want you here.
That's Dwight Clark with a lot of real estate. That's Freddie Solomon with a block. And that's a San Francisco touchdown. 66 yards.
That may be the one play that'll wake up the 49ers.
Look out, blitz from the left side. Joe Montana throws to Freddie Solomon. Touchdown, San Francisco. No flags. Linville Elliott. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Montana to place the ball down. It's kicked. It is long enough. It is good. The greatest comeback the 49ers have made as they win it by a score of 38-35.
Loved it, loved it.
Oh, boy.
Put your ass off.
Good challenge. Coming from behind like this could last the 49ers many years from the standpoint those veteran players will recall that they did come from that far behind, and I think give the team a certain amount of poise and confidence in future years when we are behind and must come back and win.
Pictures that matter in life are the ones that you're able to capture more than just what a guy is doing on the field. It's capturing the element that matters most. That element, to me, is usually the soul of a person.
What would the personal signature of a Ronnie Lott tackle be?
It's kind of hard to say what the personal signature is. I just hope that the offensive players that I come across, they just have that respect. One of the things that you find in this game is the only way you get respect out there is hitting somebody hard. And when I get that type of respect, I know that I gave my personal touch.
Amen.
Heading into 1981, the Niners were an afterthought. I don't think the rest of the league even knew we were there. But our first-round pick was good at making his presence felt.
about that face on Ronnie? He was always 110%.
There he is, the original hitman.
You try to go into the game feeling that you're better than the receiver. You want to try to intimidate him.
As a team, you had to have guys that nobody wanted to F with.
Whoa, is he crushed? And you know that's a Ronnie Lott tackle. Well, you hear him all the way to the top row.
It was pure intimidation. I'm focused on my target, and I'm gonna run through it.
Being a military brat, you learn how to hear no. My first day, I asked Hacksaw Reynolds for a pencil.
Meet Jack Hacksaw Reynolds. What kind of man is he?
Grumpy.
Literally, he had like 100 pencils in this bag. He goes, no, you'll bring a pencil the next time. I remember sitting there thinking to myself, what? And that was his lesson, how to do it the right way.
Archie Manning back to set it up. And he throws to Chandler, and it's intercepted by Lott. Ronnie Lott in for a touchdown, 49. The 49ers come on and win here at Candlestick Park in San Francisco.
Ronnie was a key to our success.
He's going back to pass, and it is intercepted by Lott. Ronnie Lott for the Niners.
The team was getting better and better.
Pass from Montana. Touchdown, San Francisco.
This thing is something.
Today, the Dallas Cowboys versus the San Francisco 49ers.
The biggest game in regular season was the Dallas Cowboys, because the year before, they were on the verge of breaking all kind of records, so they went ahead and broke them playing us.
And that'll be the ball game. Dallas with a 38-7 halftime lead and moving out to a 59-14 victory over the San Francisco 49ers.
The Dallas Cowboys were America's team.
The Dallas Cowboys are the champions of Super Bowl VI.
Winner of the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
San Francisco had never won a thing. In 70, 71, 72, they lost 3 years in a row in the playoffs to the Cowboys.
It is all over here. Well, the San Francisco 49ers, dejectedly as they walk away, they know the season has come to an end.
The 49ers had been embarrassed and humiliated for a number of years by the Cowboys.
At Summerall with John Madden at Candlestick Park in San Francisco.
It was sort of a vendetta. We're going to show these guys.
San Francisco has not beaten Dallas at home since 1967. Second and goal for the 49ers. Solomon and Mosley. Here's Montana looking. Solomon touchdown.
Now, if there was a game that I take pride in, it was that game. Because we took that great defense of theirs, the true Dallas defense,
Could be gone.
and we just took it apart. We knew just how to play against it.
Dwight Clark.
Our offense was moving. DC was working it. Our defense, they were just crushing.
Pass is picked off by Ronnie Lott. That's all she wrote. Touchdown 49ers.
It was fun.
Bill Walsh has to be ecstatic about his team's performance today.
We beat them 45-14, and we could have scored more. That was the turnaround.
Pass thrown, intercepted by Lott. Touchdown, Ronnie Lott. Our club's starting to reach maturity.
The 49ers had the best record in the league.
Being a 49er has now become something that can be pointed to with pride.
We were like happy dummies. We were being successful. We were having a great time. We had 0 point of reference.
We are in the playoffs, and that means that we're going to be in a select group. We're going to gear ourselves to try to win the whole thing.
Here's Spooner again from the end zone. The pass is picked up by Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott to the right side. He'll score. Touchdown, Lott.
Boy, this place is going wild.
A spectacular rookie year for that number 42, Ronnie Lott.
You know, these fans have forgotten about this game, Pat. They're starting to chant, "We want Dallas."
It's going to be another dogfight this coming weekend. The guys know that.
And right now, I know Dallas is really looking, and I know they're hungry for us.
They're thinking Super Bowl, and so are we, but they've got a little bit of vendetta against us, and, you know, I think it'll be a good game.
Oh my God, unbelievable. I was at the playoff game against Cowboys. The whole first half, I was crying the whole first half. Because this damn foam finger I wanted right here, I wanted it. But my parents wouldn't get it for me. And this is what all the people are holding up like this. So, of course, young me is whining and complaining, as any 4-year-old would do. And then finally, my parents bought me one just to shut me up. But it doesn't look like that in the photo, like I'd shut up much.
San Francisco, California, a city known for its restaurants, its cable cars, the Golden Gate Bridge, but not for its professional sports team. No pro team has ever brought a major world championship to San Francisco. And yet, this afternoon, the football 49ers stand just 2 steps away from a Super Bowl title. Their hurdle today is more than formidable. The Dallas Cowboys, a team whose tradition is as rich as San Francisco's is barren. Dallas this afternoon seeks a record 6th trip to the Super Bowl.
The Cowboys were the brand name. They were the platinum standard. All of a sudden now the 49ers are, in most people's minds, an entertaining pretender. They're not the Cowboys. The people who thought this was the 49ers' time, they had to joust with ghosts.
And you knew it wasn't going to be a 45-14 game, and it was going to be a battle. And you're thinking, can lightning strike twice?
This damn Dallas team, they can't keep their mouth shut, you know? They always like to make their damn press releases out of Dallas, how they're going to kick somebody's ass. And they're at it again. And you've read the remarks these guys made about us. This is a grudge game for them. They're going to knock us out of the playoffs. We don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
You know, the one thing that really stuck was Too Tall and his comments. You know, when he said, you know, well, they haven't faced the real Cowboys. That wasn't the real Cowboys. Earlier this year, they got their butts kicked. All right.
It's because somebody was missing, because the plane didn't have the proper food on it, whatever the accommodations weren't right, something, some reason they lost the game other than getting their ass kicked.
Nothing will be finer than get another chance at the San Francisco 49ers. We'll teach them not to toy with the Dallas Cowboys.
Especially if you're the big dog, don't lift your leg on the other guy.
We want you, Dallas!
Going into that game, I think most people thought Cowboys are going to win the game because they're the Cowboys.
I was a junior at Stanford. I was fortunate to get to be able to see that game, and a game that has gone down in infamy, as you know. At that point in time, I was probably cheering for the Cowboys, yeah.
Bill Walsh, the young coach who has brought the San Francisco 49ers literally from nowhere to a place in the sun today.
The Cowboys were ahead, but they never got full control of the game. I mean, it was genuinely 2 guys punching each other out for 50 minutes.
Too Tall is like probably one of the most quiet people I've ever met. But he was the one talking in the paper for some reason, which I was totally unlike him.
Just off the wing is Cooper. Play action, fake the ring. Too Tall, couldn't get him, and the pass is caught over the shoulder.
I said, respect that, and some other words behind it. So I guess it was just a lack of respect from them to us, even though we'd already beat them once.
We're looking at them going, don't do that. You do not need to piss them off.
Montana buried by two tall Jones, who really drilled him at the 15 and flattened him at about the 13. And White setting up into the end zone to Cosby. Touchdown. With 4:54 left in the game. Dallas 27, San Francisco 21.
And so when the 49ers got the ball for that last drive, some people said, this is the spot that Walsh was born for, because this is the thing that he does best.
It was a different drive than I think most people expected.
Montana to Elliott to Solomon. Solomon to the 45, to the 40, down at the 35.
The drive was mostly runs, and I think that was what I caught most people off guard. But that's Bill.
And if you've watched Dallas play defense, they are on their heels the entire drive. They had no idea what was coming or what Bill Walsh was calling.
The Cowboys have 2 timeouts. The 49ers have 1. And you know what? For one of the rare times, what they thought was going to be a barn burner is exactly that.
And you're starting to figure out, at some point, somebody's going to fumble, Montana's going to throw an interception. Something's going to go wrong if you believe that the Cowboys are still the Cowboys.
We're going to call a spring option. It's going to break up and break into the corner. Okay. You got it? The right will clear.
58 seconds remaining at the 6-yard line of the Dallas Cowboys. It is 3rd down and 3 to go. Up the line of scrimmage they come now. Montana rolling out the right, looking toward the end zone.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Caught it! Dwight Clark! It's a madhouse at Candlestick.
All hell broke loose. This was like guttural. This was like 35 years of grown men giving birth.
Dwight Clark is 6'4". He stands about 10 feet tall in this crowd's estimation.
One of the guys who knocked me down said something to me about, we just beat America's team. And don't know why, but out it came. Well, I guess you can stay at home and watch the Super Bowl with the rest of America.
Caught by Clark! Clark got a touchdown!
That was the fulfillment of 3 years of hard work. Right here, sprint option. Of running that play thousands of times.
And it is caught by Young.
Okay, let's try it again. It was execution. So this week you need execution. Execution is going to be the difference. And that's the essence of the West Coast offense. And that was the origin of a dynasty.
I just maybe conceitedly think that will be talked about forever. I hope so. It's a signature moment for 49er fans that bonds me with them no matter how long I live.
Dwight Clark! Caught by Clark! Clark got a touchdown! Dwight Clark has it!
And everyone jumped up.
It's a madhouse at Candlestick.
I couldn't see the catch. It was on the other side of the field. And they were celebrating, but I couldn't see anything. I mean, what a photo. And with the score in the background, I mean, it's incredible.
That whole scene was something I will never forget. The stadium emptied on the field, and the cops were there on the horses, and it was like, oh my God, but what did we do? It was pretty cool.
Pandemonium and Candlestick. The upstarts. The guys who were nowhere in the estimation of the experts.
You can only understand it if you've been there for the Joe Thomas years, for the years in the 60s when, they they'd go 5-9 and consider that progress. They'd purged all of it.
That's all right. How about that? Thank you.
And I'm so proud that I don't think that anything could top this. Anything in my life. And I love you all, and I thank you.
We're champions right now. We got one more to go. Congratulations for a tremendous effort. Tremendous.
From its beginning in 1967, Pro Football Super Bowl has become many things. A major sporting event, a national happening, a social occurrence, and a contest between coaching wizards.
This is what we would call a mirror game. Both clubs are very similar in style.
The man most responsible for the Cincinnati machine, right there, Paul Brown. The man who will most likely be asked 1,000 times this week why he didn't hire Bill Walsh half a decade ago when Walsh was his assistant with the Bengals.
From the time we beat Dallas, you know, it became him getting revenge on Paul Brown and the Bengals for not hiring him.
You got the legacy of some of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Montana to Rice.
It's hard to measure what's in people's desire. I want to play.
That's a job you want.
Believe it! The high expectations are what it should be. You should reach for perfection.
The 49ers have won the Super Bowl.